In this video, we're going to review the classification of living things, in particular, the classification of animals, since this is a zoology class. So natural selection, which is the process that organisms get more suited or better fit for their environment over time, where nature selects for certain traits that are better for the environment, that along with other processes have led to a diverse group of organisms. And biologists have identified and named about 1.5 million species so far, but they estimate that there's somewhere between 2 and 100 million additional species that have yet to be discovered. But we do know that species are very diverse, even within just the animal kingdom. So why do we classify? Like, what's the purpose of that? And really, to classify is classifications used to make studying the diversity of life and all the different organisms easier, right? It's to group them in a logical manner. So in taxonomy, scientists classify organisms and assign each of them a universally accepted name. And this is so that everyone in the science community can understand what it is and what its name is. And they organize organisms into different groups based on their characteristics. And the idea is that they have some kind of significance in terms of biology. So the characteristics they share puts them into groups. And when they're in the group, that allows scientists to look at an organism and say, well, it's in this group, so it must have these characteristics. Or if they find something new and it has certain characteristics, they know what group to put it in. And likewise, if a different scientist finds something new and they put it into a group, then other scientists know automatically what characteristics that new organism has, just based on the group that it's in. And they assign scientific names so that it's common, so that everyone can understand the name of the species, right? Common names are going to vary by language. So scientists use scientific names so that it doesn't vary by language. And scientific names are based in Latin and Greek because that's when the 18th century scientists who understood Latin and Greek started all of this process. And so we still use that practice today of naming new species in Latin and Greek for the most part. And so they started off by trying to name species based on their physical characteristics. However, this was a problem because different scientists described them differently, and that means that they had different names for them. So this was not a good method at all. So they came up with this idea called binomial nomenclature, and binomial nomenclature was developed by Carolus Linnaeus, and it's a two-part scientific name. Binomial means to name, and then nomenclature is a naming system. So it's a two-part, two-name naming system. And so they get two names. Each species is assigned two-part name, and it's written in and then italicized to indicate that it's a scientific name. The first part of the name, the first word in the name, is actually the genus, the group that the genus group that the species belongs to. And this is the group that's of closely related species. It's just one step more general than the species level itself. The genus name is always capitalized. So the first word is the genus name, and it starts with a capital letter, and then it's italicized. The second part of the name is unique to that particular species. It's called the species name, and so it only describes that one particular species. This word is always lowercase, and it is also italicized. He also didn't just name them. Linnaeus also grouped species into categories, into groups. And his classification system was really 7 levels, and it went from, and this is from smallest to largest. So the smallest, most specific group is species, and that's just one individual species. So all of the members of a species would be in that group. Then the next group up is the genus, and the genus is a group of species, different species that are closely related. So remember, the scientific name is the genus and the species name together, capital for the genus, all lowercase for the species, and italicized. One step above that is the family, and then above that, the order, the class, the phylum, the kingdom. Kingdom is the most general. Like, we're studying the animal kingdom in zoology, so that has all of the animals on planet Earth are in the animal kingdom. Each level is called a taxon or a taxonomic category. And so species is a taxon and genus is a taxon, and they're the two smallest taxons that there are. Remember that it makes the scientific name. So the genus name, the species name, and you get what's called the scientific name. The genus is one that shares many different characteristics that are grouped then into a larger category, a larger taxon called the family. So you start to include more diverse, yet still similar species. Then you go one step broader or more general, and you have an order. And so now you're including other organisms that, again, have something in common, but they're not going to be as closely related. So you can see like the grizzly bear and the black bear are very similar, and they were in the same genus. Then the panda was in the same family, but then the red fox is in the same order with all of them. And that makes it, you can see how it's getting more and more general. Moving up a category, you have the class, like class Mammalia. So all of the mammals would fit in this group. So what do they share? Well, they share the characteristics of being a mammal. Then you go one step further and you include even more, and that's in this case a phylum, and the phylum here would be Chordata, so that's actually going to be all of your vertebrates. So even a snake. As much as a snake is different from a grizzly bear, it does share certain characteristics that makes it part of this phylum. And then, of course, you go one step even bigger and you get the kingdom. And the kingdom is the largest, not the largest, but the second largest and second most inclusive of now. But Linnaeus, it was the largest and the most inclusive. Now it's the second most. But in this case, it would be the kingdom Animalia, so all the animal kingdom. So even a sea star would fit into this group. And it has some characteristics that it shares with all of these at a very general level. So here's a look at the pyramid, and there's a corresponding sheet that you're going to fill in the different levels. So you have kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, and species. And one thing that I want to add is in today's scientific community, there's one level even higher, one taxon even higher than kingdom. It's called a domain, and there are 3 domains. And the animal kingdom is in domain Eukarya. And what makes domain Eukarya unique and share the domain is that they all have a nucleus. They're eukaryotic cells. So they have a nucleus and membrane-bound organelles. So, for example, animals would be in the same kingdom, but then if you go to the domain Eukarya, they're also in domain Eukarya with plants, and so other organisms. All right, let's do a quick review here to see how we're doing. I want you to pause the video as you go. Which statement about classification is true? The answer here was letter B. Biologists use a common classification system based on similarities that have scientific significance. Okay, number 2. Linnaeus's 2-word naming system is called, pause it and think about it when you have your answer, unpause. And the answer was letter A, binomial nomenclature, two-name naming system. Number 3, several different classes make up A or N. Pause it, get your answer, and then unpause. And the answer was letter D, phylum. Number 4, a group of closely related species is A or N. Pause it, get your answer, and then unpause. And the answer was genus. Which of the following list the terms in order from the group with the most species to the group with the least? Pause it, get your answer, and then unpause. And the answer in this case was letter C, phylum, class, order, family. All right, so one way that you can remember the levels of classification is you can think, did King Philip come over for grape soda? Right? Domain, kingdom, phylum, class, order, family, genus, species. That will help you have a memory technique for remembering the levels of classification.